Hi, I'm Ruth Ann Sipe, and with my husband Ray Sipe, we share a position for Lutheran Disaster Response of the Carolinas.
As part of the representatives for Lutheran Disaster Response in North and South Carolina, part of our duties are to get to know all of the congregations and help each congregation find their place in disaster response.
One of the first things we've started to do is to try to get to know people across both synods that we didn't already know, especially in organizations that respond to disaster. We're working to make connections with our camps and our colleges and other organizations that might be able to take an active role. We're also wanting to meet with congregations, especially the pastors initially, to find out what interests they have in learning more about being prepared and how they might be able to help in a response to a disaster.
We've also already met with the men's organizations in both synods and talked to them about what they have in the way of disaster response equipment. Both synods have trailers that are available to be used in disaster areas, so we're trying to learn more about those, as well as become connected with the VOADs in both states, the voluntary organizations active in disaster.
Disasters aren't just acts of nature, but they can be acts that human beings have caused as well. They can be really large in scale, affecting a large territory like a hurricane does, or they can be very localized. So there's all kinds of disasters.
It's not just hurricanes or tornadoes. Some areas are prone to ice storms, and those can lead to short-term disasters. As we've seen in the news lately, train derailments can unfortunately bring very large consequences to small communities depending on what the train is carrying. And so having to relocate people, find disaster shelters for them, provide food and water, especially water, and areas where toxic chemicals have been spilled can be a big part of disaster response, as well as looking at some of the things like domestic terror and things like the Moore County disaster where someone went in and shot holes in the substation and shut the whole county's power down.
One of the most important things a congregation can probably do is take time to consider about what disasters are most likely to occur in their area and have a plan in place for how to respond to those specific disasters.
That includes knowing where the big red book in the church is and who might evacuate it if you have to clear the area, all the way down to knowing where your people are if they have to evacuate, and being able to help them have their own set of supplies at home. We've already been in touch with a couple of different churches who have, one had concerns about security issues. And one of the parts of developing your plan is how might you develop a security plan that also includes what to do if something actually happens. We had another congregation who's very interested in developing a plan because they had someone who needed CPR during a worship service, and they want to know how to be better prepared for that in the future. And so those are things where we can help you find resources, help you develop a plan that has nothing to do with a hurricane, but might very well be something that your congregation needs today. One of the things that we're trying to develop, and we will continue to work on, is a website that will have all of the resources listed that we know of. Everything from Red Cross and FEMA resources to Lutheran disaster resources, and including also local things that might be available to each congregation to have as a resource for developing a congregational preparedness plan, a community preparedness plan, or a personal preparedness plan.
So we suggest you visit ldrcarolinas.org.